The Giant's Causeway on the north coast of Northern Ireland, where we have some incredible breaking news for you. So the legendary fin disappear. Scientists captured footage of a moving stone door in Ireland, and what it revealed inside a cliff that was supposed to be solid rock has terrified every researcher who has examined the data. A section of ancient basalt at Giant's Causeway, one of the most studied geological formations on the planet, was filmed. Sliding open like a door, not cracking, not collapsing. Opening smoothly, deliberately, with a precision that 60-million-year-old volcanic rock simply cannot produce on its own. Behind it was pure darkness, not shadow a void. Then it sealed itself shut, leaving no seam, no fracture, no trace that it had ever moved. Scientists called within hours of the footage appearing online. Well, earlier today, tourists, historians, geologists, architects, and Giants experts all congregated here and have been examining the rock face to see if there is indeed any sign. What they found when they scanned that cliff has not been released to the public, and the lead consultant on the official investigation refused to sign the final report. She submitted her resignation 1 week later. Her letter said only that she had seen enough. What the footage actually shows. The man behind the camera is not a paranormal investigator. He has no YouTube channel, no book deal, no history of chasing strange phenomena. He is an electrician who lifts his consumer drone on days off to photograph coastlines. He passed every verification test thrown at him. Video metadata clean, unaltered. Multiple independent forensic analysts found zero evidence of digital manipulation. The drone's GPS logs confirmed its exact position above that section of cliff, and a coastal geologist with 15 years of research on Giant's Causeway reviewed the footage and said on record that it either violated every known law of rock formation or was the most sophisticated hoax she had ever encountered. The Giant's Causeway on the coast of Northern Ireland is one of the UK's outstanding natural features. Its steep cliffs and deep bays form a UNESCO World Heritage Site. After reviewing the forensic reports, she stopped using the word hoax. What that footage shows is a 20-ton slab of solid basalt, part of the columnar cliff face at Giant's Causeway, sliding outward along a perfectly horizontal axis. No cracking sound, no dust, no explosion of debris from rock compressed under geological pressure for 60 million years. It simply opens. Smooth, silent, deliberate, like the door it apparently is. Behind it, a void, not shadow, not the dim interior of a cave. The kind of darkness that exists only in a sealed space that hasn't been touched by light for a very long time. 11 seconds later, the stone closes slower than it opened. The seam disappears. The cliff is exactly as it was. So if it wasn't fake, someone needed to find out what was on the other side of that cliff, and they did. And what the radar found next is why this story doesn't appear in any official record. If you haven't subscribed yet, do it now. Because what comes next in this investigation is the part that people who were there are still not supposed to talk about, what the radar found. A leading coastal geologist, a specialist in basalt formations along that specific stretch of Irish coastline, arrived at Giant's Causeway, hive of volcanic activity up here in Northern Ireland. The basalt columns are formed by huge lava eruptions with ground-penetrating radar equipment within days of the footage going public. She set up at the exact section of cliff visible in the drone video and began scanning. She stopped speaking for almost 2 full minutes when the results appeared on her screen. The radar revealed a hollow chamber inside rock that every existing geological survey had recorded as solid all the way through, 12 feet deep, 26 feet wide, sealed inside 60-million-year-old volcanic stone with no entrance on any scan, no passage, no tunnel, no fissure. A perfectly enclosed room inside rock that, according to every geological record on the planet, should not contain a room. But here's the catch. The chamber itself wasn't what silenced her. Inside it, the sonar detected 7 figures standing upright, each one between 7 and 8 feet tall, spaced exactly 4.5 feet apart from each other. All of them facing the direction of the sealed entrance. A perfect formation, like soldiers, like something arranged with deliberate intention. And then locked inside a cliff for longer than mammals have existed on this planet. And get this, basalt doesn't form around standing objects. When lava cools and hardens, it doesn't neatly encapsulate structures and preserve them in position. The only possible explanation for those figures being inside that rock is that they were already there when the lava was still liquid, already standing, already in formation, before the volcanic rock solidified around them 60 million years ago. 60 million years ago, the last dinosaurs were still dying out. Homo sapiens wouldn't exist for another 59 million years. Whatever is standing in that chamber was here long before us, long before anything we would recognize as civilization. Those figures were already in position, already facing that sealed door. The question every researcher walked away with was the same one. What are they made of? Because nothing should have survived inside liquid lava. The shells that should not exist. The second shock arrived the following day, and it made everything worse. A geophysicist from Belfast, a specialist in reading underground structures through high-resolution scanning, arrived at the site with more advanced equipment. He began his work calm and methodical. 20 minutes later, witnesses said his hands were shaking so badly he had to set his tablet down on the rock to steady himself. His scans showed that the 7 figures were not made of solid stone. They were hollow shells. Thin outer casings, like suits, like containers, as if something had once been inside them, or possibly still was. And here's where it gets worse. The material those shells were constructed from had no match in any geological database on the planet. Nothing natural, nothing organic, nothing engineered by modern material science can withstand 2,000 degrees of molten basalt and remain structurally intact for 60 million years afterward. Yet there they stood, preserved upright in formation. The seismicity is typical of volcanoes when they reawaken, because as molten rock tries to push its way up underneath the volcano, it makes a lot of noise in terms of shouldering aside the hard rock that makes the edifice of the volcano itself, made of something that, according to everything we know, should not exist. Within 48 hours of those findings being documented, government agencies had been notified. And that is when, according to the researchers present, the story changed shape entirely. An official team arrived and issued a statement. The drone footage was a visual illusion caused by light and shadow on the basalt columns. There was no hollow chamber. There was nothing unusual inside the cliff. The public was advised to stop speculating. The lead consultant on that official team, the one who had seen the sonar data firsthand, refused to sign the final report. Those who were present say she reviewed the data, went pale, and walked out. Her resignation letter, submitted 1 week later, said only that she had seen enough. The site was barricaded within days. Erosion risk, said the signage standard procedure. But here's the thing no official statement could explain away. 4 days after the initial scan, one of the researchers slipped back to the site before the barriers were fully in place. She wanted to run a comparison scan, standard practice checking whether any readings had shifted. She expected 7 figures standing waiting. When the new image resolved on her screen, she counted 6. One was gone, the one that was already gone. The electrician had installed a motion-activated camera pointed directly at that section of cliff after publishing his footage. It had been running continuously day and night for 4 straight days. The footage showed nothing. No movement, no crack in the rock. The door stayed perfectly sealed for the entire recording period. And yet, inside a locked chamber, inside solid basalt that had not opened, one of those 7-foot figures had simply ceased to be there. No debris, no dust, no tunnel on any scan, no gap, no passage, no way in or out that any instrument could detect. It had moved through solid stone, through 60 million years of compressed volcanic rock without leaving a single mark. The researchers spent days trying to account for it. Equipment error, a flaw in the original scan. But both scans had been run on independently calibrated instruments by separate operators. The data was consistent on every other point. The same chamber dimensions, the same positions of the remaining 6 figures. Only one thing had changed. Something that had been there was no longer there. But here's what nobody expected. What a thermal imaging specialist found when she arrived next would make the disappearance feel like the least unsettling detail in this entire story. They were warm, and they had heartbeats. She arrived on a March morning, 39 degrees Fahrenheit. The basalt columns on the cliff face were reading exactly as cold as the surrounding air, exactly what you'd expect from ancient volcanic rock on a winter morning in Ireland. She pointed her thermal camera at the section of cliff behind which the chamber was hidden. The screen lit up in orange and red. The 6 remaining figures inside that sealed frozen 60-million-year-old chamber were radiating heat at 99 degrees Fahrenheit. Almost exactly the core body temperature of a healthy human being. The valley filled up with lava until it was 100 meters deep. It was 1,200 degrees Celsius. And it's like everything. If you boil a kettle, it'll cool down. The pool of lava had to cool down. She asked her colleagues if someone was pranking her. They weren't. Here's the catch. There is no geological process that sustains heat at that level inside a basalt cliff surrounded by freezing ocean air. Heat dissipates. That's a fundamental law of thermodynamics. 60 million years is vastly more than enough time for any residual volcanic heat to vanish completely. Whatever was generating that warmth wasn't geological. Something inside those hollow shells was producing it in real time. Then the vibration sensors reported something worse. A rhythmic pulse detected through the rock repeating every 4 seconds, consistent, steady, biological in pattern. One scientist described it very carefully as sounding exactly like a slow, powerful heartbeat. And get this, the thermal signatures weren't even constant. They spiked past 100 degrees Fahrenheit at irregular intervals, then settled back. Those spikes showed no correlation with tides, weather, atmospheric pressure, or seismic data. They correlated with nothing external. They were coming from inside, from within those hollow shells. Something in there was alive, or close enough to alive that the word barely covers it. Every 72 hours, the team ran a new scan to monitor the chamber. And what those sequential scans showed confirmed the fear that had been building since day one. Something was waking up. The figures were moving. Not dramatically, not fast. A few inches between each scan, but consistent and directional. The precise formation they had apparently maintained for 60 million years, that perfect military spacing, was dissolving. The 6 figures were clustering together and drifting steadily toward one specific point in the chamber, the sealed entrance. Something had changed inside those hollow shells. Something was waking up. The door opening because it was captured by some amateur footage, but I got soon here about it was spread all over the site very, very quickly. These entities had been preserved inside volcanic rock through the extinction of the dinosaurs, through multiple ice ages, through the shifting of entire continents, through the entire span of human civilization without moving. And now, in our generation, without warning, they were shifting toward the door. Something woke them up, something recent, something that happened in our lifetime. Nobody knows what it was. The cover-up. More than 1 million people visit Giant's Causeway every year. Families, school groups, tourists from every country on the planet. They walk across those ancient black stones, listen to tour guides, explain volcanic cooling processes, take photographs, buy postcards. According to the researchers involved in this investigation, they have no idea that 39 feet behind that cliff face, 6 massive entities are radiating body heat into cold stone and inching toward a sealed doorway. The barriers went up fast. Yellow warning signs citing erosion risk. Rangers redirecting visitors. A clean, official, boring explanation that nobody questions because nobody imagines there is anything to question. The thermal imaging specialist spent months preparing a detailed academic paper documenting her findings. Meticulous methodology, corroborating data from multiple independent readings. and submitted it to the official Geological Review Board. It was rejected within days. Faulty equipment, flawed methodology, case closed. But here's what she was told privately afterward. A contact inside that review board reached out and told her the rejection had nothing to do with her methodology. The real reason, he said, was that nobody in a position of authority wanted to be responsible for releasing information that would cause global panic if peer-reviewed science confirmed biological heat signatures inside 60-million-year-old rock. It wouldn't just be a news cycle. It would demolish the entire framework of human prehistory. Every museum exhibit, every textbook on the origins of life, every assumption about what this planet has been and who has lived on it. Giants, this is a compelling motif. People were fascinated by this idea of a giant race that had lived here previously. In April, according to the researchers involved, monitoring equipment was quietly removed from the site. Those who had been part of the investigation received clear warnings. Continued public discussion of their findings would end their careers. Most went silent, but not all of them. The data they copied before the equipment was taken still exists. The electrician still has his original drone footage on 3 separate hard drives. Encrypted copies of the scan data have been shared through a small network of scientists who believe the public has a right to know what was found. And the data showed right up until the sensors went dark that the figure closest to the door was getting stronger every single day, what the AI revealed. Before the equipment was removed, one researcher made a decision that may have produced the most important piece of evidence in this entire investigation. She compiled everything. Every sonar reading, every thermal scan, every vibration pattern, every coordinate from the 72-hour movement scans, and fed it into an advanced AI analysis platform used by leading universities for geological anomaly research. She expected the system to flag errors, identify corrupted data, find an explanation. That would have been the simplest outcome for everyone. The AI processed all of it in under 4 minutes. What it returned made the entire team go completely quiet. Finding 1, the 4-second rhythmic pulse, was not geological. Cross-referenced against over 200,000 known natural phenomena, tidal cycles, seismic signatures, underground water movement, thermal expansion, atmospheric pressure shifts the system, returned 0 matches. Its assessment was unambiguous. The pattern is biological. Finding 2, the movement data was not random, mapping the trajectory of each figure across multiple scan intervals. The AI identified coordinated sequential positioning, not independent drift, but synchronized movement, consistent with a predetermined plan. Finding 3, and this is the one that broke the team. Hidden in the floor of the chamber beneath the feet of the figures were markings in the basalt that human analysis had completely missed. Not stress fractures, not erosion patterns. A repeating geometric sequence following consistent mathematical rules. The AI flagged it with 94% confidence as an intentional structured symbol system created by something that understood geometry at a level comparable to modern engineering. Possibly a language. And get this, they didn't just survive in that cliff for 60 million years. They communicated, they left messages, they planned. They were never trapped. They were waiting. The AI's final output was a probability window, a calculated estimate for what it called in its clinical language a significant event at the sealed entrance, based on, and the door, its projection within the next several months. The researchers printed that report and kept copies. Then they watched the equipment get hauled away. The AI doesn't have a career to protect. It doesn't fear consequences. It reads the data, and the data says something is coming. Where's the 7th one? Before we get to what comes next, there is one question none of the researchers can stop thinking about. The one that sits underneath everything else in this story. When the chamber was first scanned, there were 7 figures. 4 days later, there were 6. Earlier today, we're being told tourists and National Trust rangers saw the legendary fin disappear into a magical doorway within the rock face here at the Giant's Causeway. The door had not opened. No movement was recorded outside the cliff. Nothing was disturbed. One of them is already out. It moved through 60 million years of solid basalt without leaving a trace. No camera caught it. No sensor detected it. It could be in the deep Atlantic right now. It could be in an unmapped coastal cave somewhere along hundreds of miles of Irish shoreline. It could be somewhere no human thought to look, because until an electrician's drone captured 11 seconds of footage, no human had any reason to look. We don't know what it looks like when it moves freely. We don't know if it's aware of us. We don't know what 60 million years of waiting does to something, or what it wants now that it's apparently done waiting. One of these ancient, impossibly old entities is already out in the world, moving through a civilization that has no idea it exists. What comes next? The stone door has opened once, as far as we know. But based on the rising heat signatures, the strengthening pulse, the coordinated movement toward the entrance, and the AI's probability window, the researchers who were there believe it is going to open again. And when it does, 6 beings sealed inside volcanic rock for 60 million years will walk out into a world they have never seen. A world of cities and satellites and 8 billion people who have spent their entire history assuming they were the planet's first intelligent inhabitants. What will they do? What do they remember? Do they have memories at all? Or just a plan written in geometric language on the floor of a basalt chamber? Are they dangerous? Are they afraid after 60 million years in the dark? Are they simply ready? Nobody knows. That's the honest answer. Nobody who has looked at this data has come back with certainty about what these things are or what they want. But one researcher, the thermal imaging specialist, the one who watched her paper get rejected and her career quietly threatened, said something before she went silent that no one who heard it has forgotten. "We treat ancient history like something dead," she said. "Something we dig up, label, and put behind glass." But what if ancient history isn't dead? What if it's just been sleeping? And what if it's about to wake up? The stone moved once. The heartbeats are getting stronger. The figures are at the door. We have spent our entire existence on this planet believing we were the first, that the deep past was gone, and that we were what history had been building toward. But 60 million years ago, something else was already here. Something that survived everything. Something that chose this moment, our moment, to come back. We are not the first. We have never been alone. And the question this story leaves you with isn't whether that door is going to open again. The question is whether we are ready for what comes through it. If this stayed with you, if you're still thinking about those 11 seconds of footage about a sealed chamber deep inside volcanic rock, about 6 figures moving toward a door, and about one that is already out there somewhere, then you already understand why the scientists who've seen this data can't stop thinking about it either. Drop a comment below. Tell me what you think is really in that cliff. Ancient civilization? Something completely non-human? Or is there an explanation we just haven't found yet? I want to know where you land on this. And if you haven't subscribed yet, now would be a really good time. Because if that door opens, you'll want to be here when it does.